Okay.
Uh, Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our podcast, Beyond the Sale. We have our amazing guest here, John Angelo, and Rocky here as usual. Today, we are going to be going over the steps you need to take before hiring someone, what the process might look like, and just some good things to know. So, yeah, let's start out by having you, John Angelo, introduce yourself, where you're from, what business you have, all those fun things.
For sure, for sure. Hello, everybody. My name is John Angelo Perea, for those who have not met me yet. And I met Emily, about a year and some change ago. We're both learning how to make funnels. And then the same thing with Rocky. So yeah, my business model right now is it's just a small design firm. That's the fancy term that I tell people when I don't want to get into like the nitpicky of
I
like
like that.
I create sales funnels.
Yeah,
And so basically it's a sales funnel design company. That's what we do.
that's
And
awesome.
I've been doing it for about a year and some change now, literally right after I met you. And it's been good. I can't complain.
Amazing. Yeah, the journey of like being where you are now, can you kind of walk us through that? Like I know that you're hiring people now, is that right?
Yes, yes, I am.
So what stage did you have to get at, or like when did you know that you needed to first hire someone?
That's a good question. When I basically was able to replicate what I was doing in the DMs consistently, and I knew if I hit X amount of people, then I would hit X amount of revenue. When I realized that,
Mm.
okay, I know how to do this consistently, and I started to write it down, when I started to templatize it, so I started creating SOPs, like standard operating procedures. I started creating KPIs, key performance indicators. And as soon as I started doing that and practicing them,
Mhm.
refining them, and then putting them like just putting them in my Asana, like my to-do list, then is when I realized, okay, I can definitely outsource someone to do this. I feel like that was a bit of a safe way to do it because you also have the option to do it a little earlier and then develop it from there just to help you with volume, because that's going to be the biggest thing is hitting those numbers, hitting volume
Mhm.
as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And from there, that's when you got to start to refine things and realize, oh,
Yeah.
I should have done this way earlier, or I should have refined this way more before I decided to try and teach this to someone on how to do it. So I think I hit the sweet spot. I also asked other people that had been doing this a bit way longer than me and essentially said, hey, can you please look at these SOPs and KPIs for me? I am confident in them, but you know more than me, and I don't know what I don't know. So asking for their advice as well was super, super helpful, and it really fast tracked things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's incredible. So you already have employees now, and that's when it came to be when you finally realized that you had SOPs and things that you could duplicate. So
Mhm.
now I'm curious, like, who is your main clientele? I'm really curious.
Yeah, that's a good one. So it varies. Like you could totally niche slap me right now because I have not drilled into it at all. I
Yeah,
have
no.
everyone from like people who are confidence coaches to I worked with do you know the yeah, I didn't sign NDA. Yeah, I think yeah, okay. Yeah, I can talk about this. So do you know that Gerber baby food?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so their founder, Magda Gerber, she basically revolutionized, like pioneered the whole like edu-caring method, which is education and caring for infants and stuff like that. And they needed a sales funnel. And so for one of
No
their
idea.
new classes about like infant psychology. And so I got to work with them to create a sales funnel, a couple
Okay.
of them for
So,
them. So yeah, it's kind of all over right now. But for the most part, it's still coaches. And you guys know this. If you can do it for one coach, you can do it for pretty much any coach. It's
exactly.
pretty straightforward. And oh, and then I have a my newest client, which is my retainer client at the moment. Thank God. Landing retainer clients with funnels is ridiculous. But um they're basically selling a course. So
Mhm.
it's pretty straightforward.
Nice. Yeah, I was curious because I'm thinking for people watching, there might be coaches, there might be real estate agents, there might be just anyone and everyone. When is a good stage for them to hire? Or like what would be their first hire? this could be like anyone's opinion, so I'm just curious what you guys think. Maybe we could
Hmm.
just start with coaches. So, who do you think would be their first hire?
Who do you think a coach would hire first?
I feel like a VA because
It's really good.
then
I
they
think
can
that
outsource like DMs and then they can start training them on DMs and then they can work up to like even be a closer position, but then you have to train them a lot. Um, but I feel like that would be the best first hire. And then they can do a lot of those like really time consuming, brain numbing tasks.
yeah, I think a lot of people's first hire is a VA, because usually it's cheaper and it's like I think it's viewed as like safer for some reason than other hires. And but I think if you're gonna have your VA do appointment setting, you got to make sure you gonna have something for them to appointment set. First, you have a steady flow of leads. So, but if you're just hiring a VA for like email admin tasks or something like that, that's different. But for the appointment setting, you want to kind of wait until you have some sort of system in place before you actually it makes sense to hire a VA. But be ready to. So yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea of just continually making SOPs and KPIs and then creating like templates that you can give to other people and then establishing, what your mission is, what your values are, running people through what your company does, and then having that just accessible for people to see.
Yeah, I actually had a question earlier when you were talking about your KPIs and your sheets and how you source them off to other people to look at them and to provide you feedback. What were some key things that they said about yours that you took away that were really helpful?
Yeah, they said, and like I heard this from two different people. I only sent it to two different people, but
Okay.
so 100% of them said that track everything, even things you don't think you need to track. And so
Yeah.
um, that goes from, so I get a lot of my clients from Upwork, and so I'm constantly tracking like even like how many connects did we send in 1 month. And so I realized that 2 months ago I spent like maybe $300. I sent out about, yeah, maybe, I think how many DMs. So my guy is sending out 30 DMs a day, 5 days a week, times four. And so I can't do that quick math in my head right now. Someone help me. But essentially, I realized I was spending like 300 connects per month just sending out that many. And then the next month, there was a massive jump. I was wondering, why do I not have as much cash in my account than I thought? And I realized it's because I was spending $750 last month just on connects, that's not including labor costs. That's just the little credits that you need to apply to jobs. And that helped a lot because I'm wondering, where is this money going? I feel like I'm hemorrhaging money and I don't know where it is. And so because I tracked it, I knew where it was. And so then I was able to go in there and say, okay, what's going on? Is he just applying to only premium jobs? Is he boosting every single proposal? Because you can like add an extra connects to get an extra view, to like bump yourself up to the top. What is it? What's going on here? And I realized Upwork just made everything more expensive. So that's something that I had to take into consideration, which makes sense because
Dang.
they also changed their terms of service with how they pay you out as well. And so I thought, great, I'm saving money here, but nope, it's not. It's coming back to bite me in the ass via Connect.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
track everything.
Yeah. Track everything. I like that. And I'm also curious, like I know that Rocky, you hopped on an interview today. John Angelo,
Good.
you've had interviews with people. I've had some interviews with people.
Mhm.
Because I mean, each role is different. So, are there any interviews that stood out to you where you were like, this was a really great interview and he did well, or they did well, she did well, and they are doing great work, or vice
Yeah,
versa?
yeah, absolutely. So Ali, my guy that is in charge of my marketing, my VA that does outreach, he put on his application that he's actually an aspiring copywriter. So he's trying his best to get really, really good at persuasive language, like sales written down. And so that stood out to me. And then he also did his homework. And so he
Mm.
added me on LinkedIn, etc., sent me like stuff. Like, well, this is before the interview. Sent me like loads of stuff. Like he put like meat on the table when he came in and said, like, I can do research for you. I know you want to do Upwork first, but I know you also want me to eventually start doing cold outreach, which is smart. So he basically already said, like, hey, I can already do this. One, I have a track record by showing me what he's done already. And then he showed me that he all knows how to like outreach to people, like look them up and do stuff like that. So it was small, just adding me on LinkedIn and like sending me like a couple messages on there, but it really left a huge impression on me compared to like the 200 other people that applied.
Yeah.
So
that's great. Yeah, I always preach that. Like, add personalization, actually do your homework, research into the people that you're reaching out to, because they're probably getting bombarded with messages every single day. And if you're able to stand out from the crowd, or if you're able to go into that interview already having something under your belt, you already have sent some good resources, I think that's a great tip. What about you, Rocky?
Yeah, I mean, I'll even just like give an example of the interview I had today. I kind of put the job posting out there, and part of it, like one of the things I put in there is I'm looking for like more of like a long-term relationship here. So I think when I got some people who were starting to initially reply, one of the things I saw is like did they read what I said? Because it didn't seem, some people spoke exactly to what the job posting said and others just didn't. So I really am at that point, like, first of all, like shifting, okay, I'm only going to pay attention to the people who like, and the one person is like, I value long-term relationships too, is what I'm looking for. I'm like, boom, okay, I'm going to put him at the top of my list. And he responded immediately, was available immediately, has been responsive ever since. Those are all like really good signs up front. And I think like the next one is just reading out how they answer the questions. I always ask like a backstory, like, why are you doing this? What are your goals? And what's your experience? Just trying to, and I like try to be really transparent. And I feel like that reads, if they're also someone who likes that, they'll want to work with you and they'll show that they want to by being like, hey, I'll do this. I'll like help you do a client for completely free. And if we don't get them results, then you don't hire me, stuff like that. And being able to get to the point where you build trust enough in the interview that they really like you and they see, oh, this person's like on it, I want to work with them. How can I get them to hire me? And, if people are willing to do stuff like that, I'm like, you got me hooked. So I don't know. It's just all the little things. So like kind of like Jean Angelo said, it's like all the little niceties and add-ons is I think what really makes a difference. So
yeah. Amazing. And then how would you go around setting expectations so that the people that you're hiring actually do the job that you want them to do?
That's a good point. So once again, tracking everything. If you know how long, okay, it's going to take me X amount of time to get through 30 proposals myself. This is what they expect the turnaround is, because I want you to, but also like that should be the bare minimum, because I'm the business owner. I do this part. I did that part because I had to. I don't longer want to. And so I am making sure that whatever I could do is the bare minimum. And if they can't do that, then that's fine, but like go somewhere else, because I need you to be better than me in whatever area I hire you in. I need you to be able to get better as well. And so I'll provide you resources or trainings and things like that on how to get better. But that's what I set, like in terms of like expectation, like at the bare minimum is you should be just as good as me at this. Of course, there's a ramp up time. You need to learn the niche, or for me, lack thereof. And you need to learn what's going, like the flow of it. But after 2 weeks, you should have it down pat, in my opinion. And also, once again, tracking everything. So that way, okay, I know I can do this by that, and then just giving it to them in like excruciating detail and making them repeat it back to you over a call. That's what I did on the first onboarding call. Homeboy hasn't missed a beat, but I have worked with people in the past where I've hired for other jobs where I said like, hey, this is expectation. This is how we do things here. Great. Got it. Thumbs up. And they gave me a thumbs up. And then I would say like 10 things and they heard like 7. And then they remembered 7. And then they processed and actually did like 5. And so just making them repeat it back to you and having it also written down, like creating a single source of truth for them to refer to anytime they run into like a roadblock, or they're not sure what's going to happen, or they're not sure what to do there. Just having that single source of truth will save you so much time. Kind of like our onboarding questionnaire that we use for clients. Where did you put this login info? Oh, it's over here. Where did you give me your PNG for your logo? Oh, it's over here. It's in the same spot. Same. There's one place to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like creating a job scorecard that like tracks how well they should be doing, and then also have that place of setting expectations. I really like that.
Mm-hmm.
Very important. Yeah.
Yeah. I think being as detailed as possible and clear as possible is always key, because if you're not extremely clear with your expectations and exactly what you want done, and then you go back and be like, hey, you didn't do this. Oh, you didn't say, you got to be super, super clear.
Absolutely.
I actually had this question come into my head just now. If you hire someone on, and obviously you're giving them money, so that's their incentive to be there. But what other incentives can you give people to make them stay longer and also love working for you?
I think it's about the value, like your values lining up and your long-term visions a little bit lining up, at least for me. If they can see that you obviously, have these goals, and that lines up with exactly like where they're trying to go, like they're literally trying to support people, in your niche. That's like literally what they're trying to do. And they see that you're like committed to this and you're going to grow it.
Yeah.
And that's, they want to be along for the ride and, be the go-to person. If you can kind of sell them on that, because again, like no one's going to be more interested in your company than you are. So you kind of have to make it almost about them. Like, they're never going to be like, I'm going to make it about their success. What do they want? That's where they want to get. I can help you get there if you do great work for me and get my clients great results, which is partly on but I think if you marry those two, that's a way to build just like natural incentive, and that's just about like finding someone that matches that value. I think there's other incentives and things you can do, obviously, that are a little more, obvious, but that's like the long term, like really big, I guess, one that I think about. But yeah.
I used to work for this company. Those are really good points, Rocky. I used to work for this company in Switzerland, and they would have these monthly check-ins, very few meetings, but like pretty more consistent check-ins. And so they had a personal and a work one. And maybe it's a European thing, but I found it was extremely effective because they knew exactly what I wanted from the job and why I showed up every day. And so when you ask the question, Emily, what are some things that you can do to make them feel more like they want to work for you, is make them feel seen and heard, and like they're actually progressing towards something. Because Hormozy talks about this a decent bit in the fact that like every time you have like a new customer come on board, you want them to feel like, oh, I'm delighted, I'm delighted, I'm delighted, I'm delighted. The same thing goes for, because you have like two models of like acquisition. You have like talent acquisition, which is what we're talking about, and then you have client acquisition. And so they kind of go hand in hand together in terms of, you want like, people will feel, if they just are doing enough, most people like will just do enough not to get fired. And that's fine. I get it, because that's just a deadbeat job. You don't want to be there. Like, think most like entry position jobs, and that's fine. But most people have so much more to give. And so if their skill is like doing just this to like get by, then you're going to have massive turnover. It's going to cost you a lot of money, but like at the end of the day, it's not going to feel good. And that's what matters most to me. I know that's weird as a business owner, but it's because that's what our experience is on this planet. And so if your average person can give so much more, it's in both persons' best interest to make them feel seen and heard. And you have like these really competitive places like Meta, Goldman Sachs, etc., where you have high caliber people who can give way more. But once again, oftentimes like these more toxic work cultures, especially like in the financial industry, you'll have an insane turnover, or people are just like beating themselves to death because they don't want to be there, and their minimum is way higher than your average person, which is fine, right? But it becomes cutthroat. People don't want to be there. I know a few people who work at, I don't want to out Goldman Sachs, but at Goldman Sachs, and they absolutely hate it. And so if you can incentivize them like you were talking about, right? My approach to this is make them feel seen and heard, and make sure that they understand that every time they show up to this job, not only are they is the business a little bit better, but they're a little bit better. And so they're not just showing up for me, like that's cool, and like I give them cash or whatever, right? But if Ali can do this, and he's just doing this just enough to not get fired, then I could have him send out 60, 70 proposals a day for more money, obviously, but the throughput of the company is going to skyrocket just from one way that you handle that employee.
Yeah.
So
I think it's
it
important.
depends on person per person. Like you just have to ask. You just have to make them feel heard and seen.
I love that. That's so good. I feel like that's so important to hiring someone on, is understanding what they actually want from the job.
Mhm.
That seems like very simple, but also I don't know if I've ever gotten asked that. And
It
it
seems simple, and it's like that kind of advice where you're like, oh, I could have thought of that. But at the same time, like in our position, what do we think is, oh my God, I hate outreach. I don't want to do this anymore. How can I outsource this as quickly as possible? And that's all we're focused on. But you don't put your, like, oftentimes you forget to put yourself in the other person's shoes because we've all been there. We've all had a job. And so you just forget. It's not like we're not, like we have no humanity, but you just forget because like you're focused on like your bottom line, your revenue, like your MRR and shit like that.
Yeah, and then but you also said you said that you want to have a good work environment, right? And have like positive relationships with the employees that you have. So
Yeah.
I think it just depends on what people want, right? From their culture, and like creating good culture fit. That could be a whole different video.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Amazing. I think that we covered a lot of bases on what to do when hiring someone, right? Like setting expectations, how to keep employees longer, what some good questions are to ask, and interviewing, all of that. Also onboarding. Is there anything else that you wanted to add, John Angelo or Rocky?
I think something that I mentioned once, like briefly, that I would like to reiterate is the idea of right now, like when I like the three parts of sale, like the three parts of any company, right? Like marketing, sales, fulfillment, or let's go in order: marketing, fulfillment, and sales. I would definitely hire in that order, right? So marketing first, fulfillment next, and then sales. Just because I think those are the hardest in my opinion. Like that's like the easiest to hardest. And because I know I could probably pluck like most people off the street and teach them how to do outreach. I don't know if I could teach like most people how to do sales. Like there's a lot there, and then it's also like almost equally hard to teach someone like how to create a funnel. I was going to mention one other thing. I can't remember what it is now, but oh yeah. So like when I first started, right, like whatever the marketing was the best that Jean Angelo could put out, and then whatever the fulfillment was the best that Jean Angelo could put out, and then whatever the sales was the best that Jean Angelo could put out. Now I don't have to worry about these two things, and I just have to worry about sales and like administrative stuff and things like that. I was very intimidated when I first hired my designer because like she is way better at designing than I am. Like blew me out of the water. And so I'm sitting here thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm making a mistake. I can't do this. Like she's overqualified for the position. But that's not the case at all. I've really thought about it and thought, well, like do I want it to just be the best of what I have to offer, or do I want everyone to be able to like really, really deep into whatever they do? And then I can, take over as CEO and like actually do like the administrative stuff, quality assurance, things like that, like creating like external partner relationships. And I can't do that if I have to design every funnel. I can't do that if I have to send every single DM, if I have to close every call. And so getting the next thing for me, unfortunately, is finding someone who's better than me at sales. And I'm terrified to do that, but I'll probably hire another designer actually first, because right now I am slammed, which is a good problem to have. But at some point I do have to find a salesperson, and that is like, I get excited to run ads one day. I get excited to create like super custom, like really cool stuff and expand. Like now I also do like work and go high level and a couple other platforms as well. I am not excited to hire a salesperson like that. It just seems so daunting to me. So
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to add.
Yeah.
Yeah, you also like end up being the sales manager,
Yeah.
So.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's like one of the hardest roles, I think, possibly, to be a sales manager, and hiring a salesperson does sound very hard, but it can be so lucrative, right? If someone else is just going out there taking all your calls, you're able to grow and scale, add more people on, take on more quantity, and just continue to grow. So I know it is scary, but I feel like if you were to do that, it could like put you into your next level.
Oh, 100%. That would
Yeah,
be
because I feel like after that, like Sean Angelo, like literally, like just focusing on being a CEO, quality assurance, obviously, sales managing, learning that, growing curve, but then like really just
Yeah.
pushing content so that when people go on your page, when you start running ads, it's just like, oh, obviously, like I'm gonna hire this person, you know? So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that will allow you to move further into the next like part, which is really, oh, I'm off of these sales calls now. I can actually like breathe a little bit and do more of what I need to do.
That's gonna
true.
be a crazy day when we all get
Yeah.
there, when we're like no longer taking sales calls. We have a team working for us. Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I mean,
One
I
day.
love sales. I love talking with people. I don't know. I feel like I would miss it.
I honestly enjoy sales calls because at the end of the day, like sales isn't like me trying to convince them that my solution is the best. No, it's just a conversation. Like, one, can we help you? Great. Okay. If we can't, phenomenal. Sales over. Like call's over. But if we can help them, it's just making sure that they understand that this is in their best interest to move forward with this. They're losing money every day because of this. And like half the time in sales, I feel like people, the biggest, the biggest thing in their way of going through with like moving towards something that could actually benefit them is themselves. Either they believe it won't work for them, or they're scared to take the leap, which I get, right? I've been on sales calls for probably the most expensive thing I ever bought was like 7 grand. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is totally not worth it. It absolutely like skyrocketed my revenue. So it was worth it, right? But on that call, I kept thinking, I'm not gonna, what if it doesn't work for me? What if I can't what if I can't perform? And they said, yeah, we know that's the problem with most people in your exact spot where you're struggling to like break those 10K months is you just don't have the throughput, or you don't have a VA, or like you don't have that work ethic built in yet. You don't have that process. You don't know what to do every day. You sit at your computer, you wake up and you're like, fuck, what do I do? But that's the point. Like that's the whole point of their sales process, is to get me out of the way of myself. And so hopefully, yeah, I'll miss it a little bit, but sales is going to be the last thing I step away from. And hopefully that'll be soon, but
Yeah. So exciting. Yeah, I'm excited for you. That's awesome. I want to hear more about this 7K thing that you bought too. Maybe next time.
perhaps.
Sweet. Sweet. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. Make sure to subscribe. I haven't ever said that before, but